Earlier this morning, I tweeted that if this government and this administration isn't stopped now, it will only become stronger. If this doesn't wake up the American people, nothing will. And unfortunately, it will increase the speed of things happening. It will only increase the speed of bad things growing and cancer growing. There is a third scandal now since we left the air. There is a third scandal, and that is the AP phone records. Now, let me give you the story from USA Today. The front page of USA Today is one of the most amazing things I've seen. Under fire, scrutiny of reporters adds to administration's woes. That's the most incredible, endearing headline for the president, isn't it? IRS.
Makes him sound like the victim.
It does. IRS targeting groups. I've got no patience for it, and I will not tolerate it. That's what it says. Libya. There's no there. And then the Fed sees AP phone records. Now, so you know, I went through the AP. I went through the USA Today. I went through twice trying to find a story on Benghazi. There is no story on Benghazi.
All it says about Benghazi is
what he said.
What he said yesterday, that there's no there, and that's literally all it has on the story.
Yeah, on the front page, Libya, there's no there. Now, on the second page, there is brewing scandals adding up for Obama, which has there costs $20, which has a bunch of quotes from what he said about Benghazi, but it's in a story where it talks about all of the scandals. But here's the new one, and listen to how the press is covering this. This one kills me because this one is so important, and you have a chance of really exposing what the national security apparatus really is without any kind of conspiracy. Will the press do it? Fed sees AP phone records. Now, here's what happened. The AP did a story on a whistleblower, a botched operation over in Yemen. It includes the details of a CIA operation and a terrorist plot. And so they had some details in there. They asked the government came to them and said, "Hey, don't release those details." They decided not to for a while, but the feds knew there's a whistleblower. And so they wanted to know who's your source. They wouldn't tell them the source. And so what happens? The Justice Department seized without notice all of the phone records from the reporters and the editors at the Associated Press.
Wow.
So what they did, the phone records date April and May of 2012. The AP reported that they have been collected for an investigation of a leak. So in other words, there's a whistleblower, and this administration has, and we have reported on this when we were at Fox. This administration is going after whistleblowers like there is no tomorrow. So there was a whistleblower. They went after. They seized all of the records. Now, the AP says that this is outrageous. Caroline Little, CEO of the Newspaper Association of America, says the DOJ violates the critical freedom of the press clause. These records potentially reveal communications with confidential sources, provide a roadmap to the AP's news-gathering operations, and disclose information about AP's activities and operations about the government. And the government has no conceivable right to know. They don't care. Now, will the press actually care? Because members of the press, it used to be just people like me. This is what we warned. When we asked the president, the White House said that they were monitoring the communications of some members of the press. And I remember we called the White House. Could we find out who's on that list? Are we on the list? Neither confirm nor deny. And we were passed back from agency to agency. Oh, okay. And I remember saying on the air, members of the press, don't you care about this? You don't care that they have said some members of the press are being monitored. You don't have a problem with that. No. Well, now all of a sudden the AP has a problem. The question is, will they make it just about the seizure of these phone records, or will we be able to take the conversation into something much more broad and not go to conspiracy anything? Because all of the facts are there. In fact, if I may quote CNN itself, CNN had, during the bombing of Boston, they had the phone conversations. They wondered what the phone conversations were between the bomber and his, Muslim widow, and they wanted to know, what happened. And Erin Burnett on CNN, she asked one of the guys who was former FBI, quote, Tim, is there any way, obviously there is a voicemail, and they can try to get the phone companies to give that up at this point. It's not a voicemail, it's just a conversation. There's no way we can actually find out what happened, right? Unless she tells them. Clementi from the FBI, quote, no, there is a way. We certainly have ways in the national security investigations to find out exactly what was said in that conversation. It's not necessarily that the FBI is going to want to present in court, but it may help lead the investigation and or lead questioning of her. We certainly can find out what was said in that conversation. Burnett, CNN, so they can actually get that? What people were saying? Look, that's incredible. Clemente, quote, no, welcome to America. All of that stuff is being captured as we speak, whether we like it or not. Now, the NSA has set up a system that has vacuumed up. Now, this is a former AT&T engineer, Mark Klein. The NSA has set up a system that has vacuumed up the internet and all the phone call data from ordinary Americans with the cooperation of AT&T. And that is contrary to the government's depiction of its surveillance program that is aimed at overseas terrorists. Much of the data sent to AT&T to the NSA was purely domestic. Every day, the collection systems at the NSA intercept and store 1.7 billion emails, phone calls, and other types of electronic communication. If you are saying anything over anything electronic, the government is storing it. Again, you just need to go to credible sources that have reported these bits and pieces. Washington Post. You go through and you look at what these credible sources, if you want to actually call them credible, I don't call the Washington Post credible, but the mainstream would call them credible. If I may, let me give you according to the Washington Post.
But what you're doing, Glenn, is crazy. You're taking the various pieces and trying to put them together, which is madness. Why would you take the various pieces and put it all together and form a picture?
I know.
It's conspiracy stuff.
Right. According to the Washington Post, many Americans may not realize this, but nothing that you do on your cell phone or the internet will ever be private again. Washington Post. The NSA intercepts and stores an astounding amount of information every single day. Every day, collection systems at the National Security Agency intercept and store 1.7 billion emails, phone calls, and other types of communication. The NSA sorts a fraction of those into 70 separate databases. In fact, the National Security Agency whistleblower William Binney claims the NSA has collected 20 trillion transactions about U.S. citizens with other U.S. citizens.
And weren't we told in the beginning that was only going to be for overseas calls?
Absolutely.
To suspected terrorists and suspected terrorist nations.
They can now not only log, but they can cross-reference the information, and they have the ability to monitor your life in real-time data flows. It means all digital communications, including phone calls, text messages, emails, and even live internet chat, are being actively monitored, captured, and stored, and they can be recalled at a push of a button. It is not theory, it is fact. This is what you need to know. This whole thing about the DOJ going and are they checking our phone records? Let me tell you something. Anytime they want to find out anything about anybody, I was just telling Pat, without obviously giving you any details, we are living in All the President's Men. Right now, my company is living in All the President's Men. And more companies would be living in All the President's Men if they didn't dismiss. I mean, right now, I wrote another tweet this morning to the AP. AP, you should be ashamed of yourself. All of a sudden, you care. We have people, we have several sources that we have to meet with. And they have met with us at their own peril. They're not talking about just being fired. They're talking about being fired. They're talking about losing their life, losing their livelihood, losing their reputation, possibly going to jail for the rest of their life. Because this administration, what this AP thing is all about, is seizing all of the records to stop any whistleblowers on this government from speaking out. They have to make an example of people. And they've already done it. I think there are 3 or 4 whistleblowers that right now have been clamped down on. If you speak out about this government, we used to have whistleblower protection laws. We don't anymore because the press will not cover it. And so the reason why The Blaze, this upstart company, is getting serious whistleblowers is because we take them seriously. You have to have credentials. You have to have the goods. You have to be somebody that we go, okay, you're in a position to know. We check you out. It's not just somebody calling up and going, let me tell you a story. But we are living All the President's Men. And everyone that we know, no longer will walk into a room and talk to us at all if there's anything electronic in it. If there's an iPad, if there's a cell phone, they won't walk into the room. Well, come on. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Unless you can take the battery out of your phone, even if it's off, it's a monitoring and tracking device. We have this from the highest levels. It's a monitoring and tracking device. And if you don't think, if you're a whistleblower, if you don't think that that's what they're doing, well, the whistleblowers, I don't have to say this, they know. If you are in the government and you want to tattle on this government, be very, very careful. We have actually met in parks where we're supposed to meet in a park and somebody's supposed to go buy a trash can and just drop a document. And as they walk by one of our people, they will just say, life-threatening stuff, do not expose me. And that's it. And then our people are supposed to go to the trash can and pick it out. This is not a game. This is not conspiracy stuff. This is stuff I grew up watching in movies. It's happening, America. And the AP is worried about their phones being monitored or their records being taken for a month. They have the ability to listen to everything that you have, and it is being recorded. So at any time, you can go back and listen to it, which you have to ask this question. If they can do that, why are we having hearings on what was known on Benghazi? Why are we having any hearings? Why don't we just call the NSA and ask them to release all of the electronic transmissions? Because we'll know. I will tell you one of the strangest things I've ever seen is I've talked to Michael Chertoff when he was the head of Homeland Security. We talked to Ashcroft when he was the head of the FBI and Justice. We've talked to people that were in the Bush White House. None of them carried a cell phone. None of them. None of them were on email. And they all said the same thing. Nobody with any brains is on email. What do you mean? All of that stuff's being recorded. Why does the President of the United States have a cell phone? Because if we can do it, certainly the Russians can do it. Certainly our enemies can do it. Why are we not demanding that this database is opened up? Why are we having this ridiculous exercise of hearings? It's like, hey, let's all go to the silent movie this weekend. All the information is there. Or is all this data being collected on you for the protection of the state? Because what they've told us is all the data is being collected is to protect you. I'm sorry. This data collection is to protect the state, not you.